Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm your host, Andrew, joined as always by Ryan.
Hey, hey.
And Steven.
Hello there.
How's it going, guys?
Going pretty good.
Good, yeah.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking.
I'm feeling kind of weird, you know. I didn't hear a 1-star review.
We okay, so different format, different episodes.
I can hear
week.
Listeners giving this episode a 1-star review. No.
Okay, yeah, so we didn't have a 1-star review this episode because we are doing a 007 doubleheader.
Say that 5 times fast.
So we are basically reviewing 2 Sean Connery films today, the 2 highest rated for him on IMDb. We're trying to make this as unbiased as we possibly can.
Because what we're doing is we're going to review 2 from each
Bond.
Each person that was Bond. Except for
Lazenby and Dalton.
Lazenby and Dalton get rolled into
one singular episode.
One singular episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're kind of going over From Russia with Love this week. And then we are going over Goldfinger as well, which both of those are the 2 highest rated Sean Connery films.
Which I thought was interesting in and of itself, but...
Really? I don't think so. I mean, I think I've always heard that. I mean, Goldfinger is obviously kind of the quintessential Bond Sean Connery film. But then you have From Russia with Love, which is always always consensus of a higher rating than most.
And see, these aren't my 2 favorite Connery movies, but I completely understand why they would be.
I do too.
Most people.
Yeah, like I'm not the biggest fan of From Russia with Love.
See, From Russia with Love is very high on my list.
Oh, that's weird.
See, me, it's Thunderball and Diamonds Are Forever. That's my 2 Connerys.
Yeah, Diamonds Are Forever is great.
That's a
but
good
I
one,
completely understand that.
But this is why we referred to IMDb, right? We needed an outside party with quote unquote no bias.
Otherwise, it would be impossible.
Yeah, we would argue too much about which 2 to review. So we went to the reviewers at IMDb and they picked these 2 as the 2 top rated.
Yep. So we are starting with From Russia with Love, 1963, second Bond film, and because we are kind of off format here, we are not going to be giving a hardline technical review of our normal scoring format. We're just going to be kind of going over our general thoughts of it. We're going to be giving some trivia. Yeah. And, these are very old 1960s films. Yeah. It's kind of unfair to compare them to, I'll say, like modern filming techniques and everything that have to be on a very high curve.
And also, like, we're going full spoilers from the beginning.
Yeah, these are
old movies.
Yeah, no spoiler wall here. If you haven't seen this film, just stop now and go watch it, I guess. Yeah,
bail out.
Yeah.
And also, I would go as far as to say with a lot of these Bonds, especially the Connery ones, I think even if you spoil it for somebody, you can still enjoy the movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of Bond, it's not that you're trying to make the twist work, right? This isn't Knives Out or a whoddunit where, if you spoil a twist, you ruin the movie. This is just, you're here to have fun,
you're here to have fun,
etc.
Okay, so, now we've kind of gotten over some format changes just for this episode once,
Or this series of episodes.
For the series of episodes for all the other Bond things.
Yeah. Any 007 doubleheader is going to be 2 movies.
Yep. All right,
that's how doubleheaders work.
That's how it works. It's in the title. It's right there on the cover.
Yeah, so we're going to go over the synopsis for From Russia with Love, if you are unfamiliar.
Hit me with it.
James Bond willingly falls into an assassination plot involving a naive Russian beauty in order to retrieve a Soviet encryption device that was stolen by Spectre.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to kind of give just a couple little tidbits of trivia here before we kind of start. So the main girl, Tanya Romanova, was actually played by an Italian actress, Daniela Bianchi, and voiced by a British actress, Barbara Jefford.
This explains a lot about the...
I was going to say,
because this was something that Lauren and I both noticed a lot.
So, the lips being off.
So basically, because Daniela's accent was so thick, they actually couldn't use her voice, but they wanted her look.
Okay.
Basically.
So they were like, this girl looks the part
of a Russian.
Read a line in Russian. Give me some spaghetti. No. It's not what the line says at all.
Yeah. So, so basically it was a Italian actress playing a Russian character, but overvoiced by a British actress.
3 people collaborated to make this role come to life.
How many people do you need to make a Russian?
Yeah. So one of the cooler things, too, is Sean Connery and Robert Shaw, the main bad guy of the film, or henchman, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Did most of their own fights themselves. They didn't have any stunt doubles for generally most of the film.
There's like a couple of scenes where you can see like a wig. Like the Robert Shaw dude, his wig is terrible, specifically why it stands out. Which, again, I'm sure back in the 60s on a projector in a theater, you didn't notice it. But when you're watching it in 4K, I was like, I could tell that's not Robert Shaw.
Yeah.
But it's very rare.
Yeah. One of the big things of why they couldn't do stunt doubles is the fight in the train.
Yeah.
It's so close.
Very close.
There's really no way that they could do it without doing it themselves.
Yeah.
And then one little other bit of trivia. I have a bunch more, but it'll probably come up as we discuss it. So Blofeld, kind of the big bad of Spectre. He's kind of like the head honcho guy. He's number one. They kept his face obviously secret off camera because they didn't want to reveal who it was because they didn't really. They had a general idea of where they wanted to go with it.
Yeah.
However, they didn't have that written in yet, like for the other films.
So when these movies were coming out, how far behind the books were they? Do you know?
That I don't know.
I do wonder about that. Like, was Ian Fleming like?
When they were coming out, most of the novels were already done.
Yeah, I was gonna say most of this was done by the time.
Most of these were already done.
So
back in the 50s.
they probably theoretically at the studio knew that in the books Blofeld would reappear, but they weren't sure what they were going to do in the movies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at the time of filming, which was 63, or release was 63, From Russia with Love had come out in 57.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, Dr. No was 58.
Yeah.
So that's the reverse. Goldfinger 59, For Your Eyes Only 60, Thunderball 61, Spy Love Me 62. So On Her Majesty's Secret Service released the same year as this. So there were already 1, 2, 3, 4.
So he was still writing
10,
concurrently
10
with the movies being produced. Yeah.
But okay, so they wanted to keep his face hidden.
Yeah.
The production studio also did not want audiences to figure out what he looked like. So they acknowledge his existence in the credits. However, he just has a question mark by his name.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there is an uncredited role for Anthony Dawson, who is the body. And then the voice was Eric Pullman, who was actually in Dr. No as one of the secondary villains.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting. Like, because they really wanted to obfuscate how he looked.
Yeah.
Just because they wanted it to be a mystery.
Yeah, I actually thought that was really clever. Lauren noticed it in the credits. Whoa, question mark? Who's that's number one.
Yeah.
And you only see the cat, really. And like, they really tried to make that a secret for as long as they could.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a lot more information for this, but we're gonna kind of go over our general thoughts of kind of what we like and what we didn't like, right?
Yeah. I'll lead it off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
I like this movie. Okay, I think it's definitely in a lot of ways a more subdued Bond and a little more grounded than some of the obviously some like Connery flying around on a jetpack and other things like that. I think this Bond, especially From Russia with Love, has probably some of the most pure espionage.
It does.
A lot of actual spy work.
Yeah.
It feels like actual spy work.
It feels, like I think overall, my complaints are just that it feels a bit slow in terms of the pace.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's definitely some scenes that could be
sped up a little bit.
Sped up a little bit. And
not sped up footage, just actually faster.
There's plenty of that though.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is like you can still kind of see some rough edges in this movie where they're trying to figure out how should a Bond movie be? Like what is a Bond movie? We've only had Dr. No before this. Like the thing that stood out to me was they used the Bond theme almost like too much. There was a couple of scenes where like he's just walking down a hallway and it bumps into And I'm like, what? Nothing's happening on screen. Like this is usually when like things punch up,
So a fun note on that.
Yeah.
Whenever they announced the film to be released in October 1963, guess how long they had to film the film? Like from beginning of production, writing the script to filming it and being done for
6 months.
4 months.
Good Lord.
Wait, when did they announce its release?
They announced it in October 63, and they started in June.
Wow.
So
surely not.
Yes, no, that is exactly what it was. So with an October 1963 release date already announced, everything was done in just 4 months, and the trouble production was it was a lot. So Pedro.
That's actually the thing that's giving me hangups is the actor Pedro. Armin Darius.
The guy who plays Karen Bay, the
main chief in Istanbul,
was dying of cancer and had to shoot all of his scenes within 2 weeks, and then he died at the end of June.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I was wondering about your timeline, because like he passed away in June of '63. Like, holy cow.
Yeah, no, like they basically started it and they were like, oh, he's gonna die. We have to like
finish
film this.
Yeah.
So the script was constantly being rewritten as they were filming. Director Terrence Young and art director Michael White nearly found themselves dead in a helicopter accident that almost killed them both. Sean Connery himself was almost killed while filming the scene where Bond is chased by the Spectre thugs in the helicopter. An inexperienced helicopter pilot flew too close and almost chopped him in half.
Holy moly.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, it is paramount to the production crew and editors to make this film.
Right.
Like 4 months is insane.
That's an intense shooting schedule.
So, a heck of a turnaround.
Yeah. So kind of talking on, what you were saying is like, there's just some scenes that just don't make any sense, or they could be a little bit shorter. Or anything
it
like
really
that.
is like the music's like, why is this da 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 da? And he's like signing his name in a book. And
so,
I'm like,
because there was a lot of scenes that were cut out.
Yeah.
That it just didn't work.
Well, it sounds like they didn't have time to go take another pass at the editor.
Just take everything you could, slam it together, and then trim it as you go.
There were a lot of scenes that just kind of existed, and even if it was a bad take, they just had to have it because they didn't have time to dwell on it and do multiple takes.
I did not know that. It's
pretty wild.
Intense, yeah.
Yeah.
Hearing that Kareem's actor is dying of cancer, because he's a very like kind of happy-go-lucky character for being in charge of a spy station.
It's really sad.
Yeah, actually,
he did
harder.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, like I couldn't have told that he was sick.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah,
I like this film because it is probably one of the most grounded espionage-based films. Like the quotation marks gadget is really just a really sweet attaché case that.
Yeah,
this is definitely like one of those cases you would think that a spy would have in the 60s.
Yeah, it just has your backup knife, your booby trap if someone else tried to open it, your spare money.
Yeah,
I mean, which feels standard.
Yeah,
and then a rifle.
Yeah,
no big deal. Right. Just a whole rifle.
Well, they do a good job of like explaining how the case works so that later
Oh,
like
this was a twist.
Oh, yeah. Like, okay.
Yeah, he's like trying to get Grant to open up the case.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, there's some gold sovereigns in there. Just open it up. He's like, you open it. It's like, oh, darn. Almost had him.
No, it
has a twist. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he just is hoping that whenever Grant opens up the second case, or like he's like, oh, I'll open it up. And Grant's like, no, I'll do it now.
Yeah. At that point, like you've shown it, and now he's thinking, oh, the trick is he's shown me one. Now he opens the second case, and that's where his gun is. I better handle this one.
Yeah,
because and it's the trap. It's just the reverse.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's definitely some pacing problems that kind of slowed down the film for me. I didn't really like a lot of the gypsy stuff. It just felt kind of weird, especially like, so he watches, these two girls fight, and then, obviously everything breaks out, and then like they're just like, oh yeah, now they're just falling in love with you.
I'll settle this argument. You both love me.
Yeah. It was like, really weird.
Okay.
There's definitely. And this is true for basically all of the Connery and more Bonds to an extent. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't age well.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Yeah.
And most of it revolves around women, sadly.
Yeah.
Because watching some of that's tough from a modern perspective now.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I love the film because it feels, it's a very small, this is not the world will end, and we only sent one person to deal with it kind of thing. Bond has that issue where it's like, dude, England, what's the budget here?
Because can't send two agents out on some of these things? Yeah.
Well, every time they tried that, the other agent, backstabs them.
Yeah, that's just crazy how that works.
Sean Bean.
But yeah, it's it feels like real spy work. And I love when he's, at the station in Istanbul, and he's going through the whole, we bribed the contractors when they had an issue. We got this put in. That kind of stuff, that feels like actual Cold War spy tricks.
Of kind of what it would be.
Like this, the way they did, well, we know them, they know us. And, we go through this routine every day. It's just kind of a peaceful process. And then obviously something happens to interrupt that.
Yeah.
But I really like the idea of the two spy agencies kind of being put against each other by Spectre as the big bad guy behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And all of the side play of the two groups kind of working with and against each other while it's really Spectre pulling the strings.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think it makes them seem really powerful and really scary. And two, the whole idea of, well, we're going to trick this naive agent into doing this. and then we have a way of profiting from this and also get revenge on, like, that feels like a spy movie.
Yeah, like kind of what, I mean, definitely. Yeah. Well, and especially at the time, like, this is definitely, heart of the Cold War.
Yeah, dead center.
And this is exactly kind of what you would expect.
Right.
Out of like multiple agencies trying to outwit each other
for something. Yeah. Well, it really paints a good picture of like how Spectre operates.
Yeah.
Just in general, you know.
Well, also almost one of those things where it's like, oh, it's 1965, and the KGB finally is seeing a copy of this, and they're like, we had contractors last year. Oh, we need to check, kind of almost revealing like real spy work kind of thing.
Yeah.
In a sense, it feels very close to it. So.
And you still get a little bit of that really kind of like humuhaha kind of Bond villain with Blofeld with the cat, and then number 3.
Number 3 and number 5.
Number 3 and number 5. Like, I love that. Also, shout out to the opening scene and the most elaborate chess tournament ever.
This is chess streaming. Hardcore from the 1960s.
And it's like the stage they're playing on is a chessboard. There's so much marble everywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, did they build this set, or is there a place in the real
world?
It's
probably
somewhere
in the real world.
Yeah, and like that was.
Well, there's almost probably no way that they could have built the set in 4 months. Not
true.
for one
scene.
Yeah. They found somewhere that looked good.
Yeah. So, but seeing number 5 and number 3, like the plan is foolproof. You know, and like that was. That whole interaction at the end too, when they get rid of 5,
the boot
fake
out,
awesome. The boot, like
so it cracks me up, right? Because a lot of the movie feels like real spy work, and then you break out something like the boot knife, and you're like, oh yeah, it's James Bond.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You gotta keep it settle down.
I could definitely see a boot knife being something that existed back then.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, but probably not the way that number 3 is using it at the very end.
True.
It's not a primary combat weapon.
Yeah, well, I mean, like clearly, like she can just be.
If she just grazed him with it, he was going to die from the poison. Yeah, that's I think the point of it. You know,
the final scene, I do like the twist of like like you feel that they've gotten away, and then she walks into the room. You're like, oh no,
yeah.
But then it's kind of comical of how he just like beats her just by basically. Pinning her to the wall with the chair.
It's a really awkward scenario where it's like, well, do we have Sean Connery just beat up an old woman? Like,
right. How do we do this?
You basically can't do that unless Tatiana like shoots her, right?
Yeah.
I do think some of the shots are really cool in this movie, especially the one where Robert Shaw is stalking James Bond on the train and Bond is off.
Oh, yeah, that's a great shot.
I love that shot where he keeps fading behind the partitions between the windows.
It matches up with the music too.
And he's like, it's like in between the windows, but there's like a mirror on the other side, so you can still see him there.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's a really cool shot. And then the fight scene in the train with him and Bond was really well done, especially for the time.
Yeah.
You think of a lot of the movies at the time, it was like, Batman and Robin, just bam, one punch and the person's down. Like John Wayne movies, one hit and they're out, and they're going back and forth, and it gets pretty visceral a couple times. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it felt like a very real scuffle that you would have with two physically capable men, like in a very confined space.
Yeah.
Also, and it come back to pay off at the end, but when they were shooting the secret Bond porno from behind the mirror, I was like, what are they doing? It's just like, they're like,
it's just blackmail.
Oh, we got him in here. Get the camera out. It's for the private reserve. Like, Spectre's weird like that.
Yeah. Blofeld's just got a whole rack at home.
Yeah, I know.
What's it going to be tonight? I think October 1962. That's a good month.
Right. Oh, no.
Because you got to think about that setup. It's the bridal suite.
Yeah.
So, they're blackmailing us, but what are they doing with this other times?
How long has this two-way mirror been there? Yeah.
I mean, that's actually kind of a common theme that goes out through a lot of the Bond films where, basically like every hotel room that he goes into, because he frequents those often and it's, in that time period, they're like, well, yeah, we're going to spy on you. That's why he always goes in and checks for bugs and everything.
Kind of, lists the frames and everything.
Yeah. So before we kind of move on from Russia with Love, I have one more little tidbit. So there was actual conflict between the two fighting gypsy girls on set.
Oh no, the joke became real.
Wow.
So Martine Beswick recalled that Eliza Gur was jealous of her friendship with Terrence Young, the director, and accused her of sleeping with him.
Wow.
Oh, wow. The actual, they just filmed.
They just rolled on it. So
basically,
like, roll on this.
The director just was like, well, y'all are not getting along. get in there. Let's start the camera.
So the director was forcing method acting upon them.
Yeah.
That's man.
Yeah.
A lot going on in those films.
Also, how many sons does this dude have?
Well, I think that was more of a euphemism for the people that worked for him.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't
I thought this dude's like,
no,
just gets around.
He talks about, like, in this business, it's best to have blood. But it may not be, it may be what we consider, nephew.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and they're all his son.
I like
but
to
it's
think
just
they're
big
all his
family.
sons.
I mean, that's also
I think this
not,
dude gets down.
Yeah, he puts the paper down and is like, okay, wife or mistress or whoever this is.
This mistress is like, come to bed. He's like, oh, again? I've got so many sons already.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, it's a good film. I don't know if it's more entertaining than something like Diamonds Are Forever. I don't know. Like,
so I guess without putting a score per se, if you were just having a day, like, I'm gonna watch a Bond,
definitely not.
Would you wouldn't pick this? This is not like a casual watch.
Oh
right?
no, not at all.
I think it's a little too slow for that, because the third act is
the plot is very in depth for what it is.
You need to pay attention. Yeah.
It almost feels like it has a false ending too, where like you think when they get off the train, it's like, all right, we're done. Oh no, there's like 20 more minutes of boat stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and we got like helicopters.
And then there's a helicopter thing. Okay. Oh, and now we're in a hotel room, and it's like, it almost feels like, and I don't know what, they may have been going too liberally by the book. Maybe the book goes, to all those places too. But yeah, for me, I don't know. It's a fun movie, but it's not zany enough to be just a quick afternoon watch.
I definitely think that it is not a film that you show a modern viewer that hasn't seen James Bond before.
No.
Like for the first.
Yeah.
Because it's a very hard film to like really get into unless you were already zoned in on like, ooh, spies and espionage, Cold War. I like this.
So it's interesting, right? Because one of my favorite Jackie Chan's is First Strike.
Yeah.
And First Strike is all very similar in the sense of there's a lot of double cross. If you don't sit there and pay attention to it,
you're just gonna miss it.
You are gonna have no idea what's going on. Yeah. So
I think if you were trying to show somebody a Bond and they didn't like the zany crazy stuff, and they do like espionage, this is probably the entry drug.
Broke out Roger Moore for them for the first, and they're like, I don't know about this.
Don't do that.
The slide whistle.
We're gonna start with A View to a Kill.
I was gonna say like the slide whistle car ramp.
We're gonna watch, a 75-year-old Roger Moore like hobble around on set.
Poor guy.
So I would say that would be the only time I would recommend this for someone who's never seen a Bond. Is if you want to ease into the antics, this is probably even more low key than Dr. No, really.
Yeah, Dr. No is still a little doomsday.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff, where this one is very much more subdued.
Yeah, Dr. No just like kicks it off right from the go, just puts the pedal down of the problem. Before we jump on to the other side of this doubleheader, if you are a fan of Bond and want more Bond content, we have a series of bonus episodes revolving around Bond.
Only $1 a month on Patreon.
Only $1 a month on Patreon.
That's a steal.
It's an absolute steal.
I'll say it. It's a steal.
And we started off with a very spicy episode of going through all of the opening credits of 25 Bond films.
Yeah.
And ranking them and coming up with a top 10. And it gets pretty contentious.
It's a spicy episode.
It was brutal.
But if you want to listen to that and a whole bunch of other Bond content that's coming up, $1 a month gets you access to all of our bonus episodes on Patreon.
Yep.
There's a lot of other stuff besides that.
Tons of stuff.
Really, if you're enjoying kind of a shift in format, a little looser play here, they're all along those roles as well. But I think on that note, we're gonna go on to a little Goldfinger.
Yep. No spoiler wall here. You just get it right out the gate. So Goldfinger, 1964, director Guy Hamilton. So not Terrence Young. I always want to say Howard for whatever reason. I don't know why, but
I don't
Terrence
know.
Young, who basically directed Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Thunderball. But he skipped Goldfinger for some other scheduling conflicts, I think. So they got Guy Hamilton.
I got a Tide commercial. I can't make it.
Those gypsy women, man.
Yeah, so this is kind of what everyone is considered to be like the main James Bond film that you should watch to get into the general theme of how it should kind of like
Bond
go.
films are going to play out, right? Well,
this is kind of like the template,
the prototype moving forward.
Yeah.
This has one of your quintessential Bond henchmen.
Yep.
An odd job.
Yeah, you have a good henchman in Oddjob. You have you have great gadgets, which is kind of a recurring theme through mostly all the Bond films.
Yeah,
cool
the car is great.
Yeah,
is this your introduction to the Aston Martin?
Yep, Aston Martin DB5.
Yeah, we get to like actually go into Q Branch, not just have him show up in the office.
Yeah, which is really fun.
Yeah.
So before we kind of get into a lot of the nitty gritty
opinions.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a little bit of trivia.
Okay.
Trivia.
Trivia. So this was kind of a doozy right at the beginning. This film was initially banned in Israel due to
Gert Frobe
having been a member of the Nazi Party during World War II.
This is spicy.
However, it was then revealed that he used his connections to save several would-be Holocaust victims during his tenure in basically during the war.
So he kind of like faked it to.
Yeah, he basically had
he used his
connections
spy.
And his ability to save people there.
Wow, I did not know
and
that.
he basically had a big problem with the finale of the film using nerve gas.
Because of
the Holocaust, and he said it reminded him of people that he couldn't save.
Wow.
And speaking on him, Art Goldfinger is a British character played by a German actor. He's British, but he doesn't sound like it, even though he has a English actor that overdubbed Gert because he could not get rid of the accent as well. Really? It seems to be like a recurring theme.
I'm seeing a pattern. Yeah.
The other fun thing is that Sean Connery never set foot in the U.S. for filming this film.
Really?
For any production.
That's
interesting.
Crazy.
Basically, every set that he was on, they recreated it in England somewhere.
So they just created like a Kentucky horse farm in the middle of England?
Correct. Pretty much. Well, yeah. And now there is footage of the U.S. in Kentucky and around Fort Knox and everything.
Right, yeah.
But when he's in frame.
Yeah, he is not there.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. Because they also did not have access to obviously inside of Fort Knox. So they had to embellish and kind of what they think was what was in there. And
big cages with gold bars everywhere.
After the film came out, the U.S. government, they basically like, oh, that's a very imaginative version of what is actually there.
Yeah. Which is exactly what you'd say if they nailed it. And got it exactly.
Well, I love not to reach out to a different thing, but War Games, NORAD declined them to be able to film or have any idea what it looked like. And he was like, fine, I'll make it better. And he made such a cool control room for it that when it came out, the people who worked at NORAD were mad. They're like, this is nothing what my place looks like.
Look at what we work in. What are we thinking?
Just a bunch of cubicles.
Look how cool that looks.
So then one more bit, and then we'll kind of go in as we go. Co-producer Harry Saltzman hated the title song by Shirley Bassey.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
He has zero taste.
Apparently.
Because...
What? Did he say why? Or
he just hated it.
Wow. That's... Because we rated that pretty highly, as I recall, on our bonus Patreon episode.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic song.
Also,
and a great opening sequence.
And again, this is kind of like the proto template for Bond moving forward. This is the first one that has like a really good banger of an opening theme song. Like, it's crazy that one of the producers was like, this is the wrong way to go. I hate it.
It's possible that he just didn't want that kind of change. And just that kind of, style just didn't suit him. Which is crazy.
Which way would he want it to go?
I have no idea. More belly dancers with projected, text on them. I don't know. Okay, so Ryan went first last time. Steven, what are your general thoughts? Because you seem to be the dissenter.
Well, no, it's not that I dissent. It's that when people say, well, this is the quintessential Bond film, I agree. We have the female antagonist / Bond helper with a terrible name.
Yes.
Absolutely terrible name.
Pussy galore.
Pussy galore.
I'll say the name.
Well, and it's definitely terrible one of those that that is a trend that unfortunately carries on through basically every Bond film.
There's a reason why Austin Powers absolutely lampooned it, because it just keeps happening. It's like there's no way there are this many women walking around the world with these names. It's just not and they all turned to evil apparently. Because I guess their parents hated them because they gave them terrible names.
I mean, you have Christmas Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Then you have...
She doesn't do to evil, though.
Plenty O'Toole.
Plenty O'Toole. That's another good one. Yeah.
But it's the prototype, right? Because it starts this trend.
It does. Yeah, unfortunately.
It also, going into, spoilers here, but it also starts the trend of women who associate with Bond are extremely at risk.
Yes.
Just immediately.
A lot of women die in this movie directly because of or surrounding Bond and actions happening because of him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because he, when you go back to From Russia with Love, right, the prior one, he's very serious. He doesn't really play around a lot.
Yeah.
And when you kick off Goldfinger, he absolutely steps in to play with Goldfinger.
Yeah.
And it costs somebody their life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not even doing it for any real purpose beyond just trying to push Goldfinger's buttons.
Just kind of being a jerk.
Yeah.
So that was a thing. I loved the golf sequence.
Yeah.
Just because of him, basically rules lawyering.
So, fun thing is Connery had never played golf before this filming.
Yeah.
And he wanted to learn how to play so he could keep up with Gert. And he actually ended up loving it, and that kind of turned into one of his things
he just
for the
became
rest
a
of
golfer.
his life.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, really, my big problem with the movie is all in the third act, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it basically, everything hinges on Bond. It's the 60s, I get it, but it's sexually assaulting.
Yeah. Betting a girl and then...
Pussy galore. Yeah, to convince her to come to his side.
Yeah. And I don't even think that was really his intention.
No. It didn't feel like
it. Didn't feel like that was his goal at all. Yeah, I don't, it wasn't like a plan. And then it gets revealed that, overnight she alerts the government, and the government buys in so hard that they decide
to fake everything.
Do full theater.
Not only that, but to prove that Bond doesn't know, it's like Felix tells him, "Oh yeah, Pussy Galore's got on board with him." Bond's like, "Oh really?
Oh yeah,
oh for real?" He's impressed by it, and it's like, did I guess they didn't have a conversation? Did he not say, "Hey, it'd be really cool if"?
Yeah.
He acts like, "Oh really?" He's kind of surprised.
Yeah, because the whole plot hinges on just that, because otherwise the whole plan would have worked just fine for Goldfinger.
Flawlessly, yeah.
Without any issue at all. So
but it's how did she get the number for Felix?
How did she know who to contact?
But then even after her turn, right, she turns to the good side. She sabotages the plan.
Yeah.
Well, then she's still helping Goldfinger. She's still flying the plane.
Yeah. But they just switched out the canisters.
Yeah, I guess she's got to still make it seem like things are happening for him to get caught.
Well, I meant at the very end.
Oh, yeah. She's still flying the plane that Goldfinger...
Didn't he kidnap her, though?
No, they knocked out the actual crew for the plane, and it's her just piloting it. So it's just what is going... I don't understand.
So fun fact, Honor Blackman, the girl who played Pussy Galore, she was selected.
Kills me every time.
I hate saying
every time.
She was selected because of her role in the Avengers, and the script was rewritten to show her.
Not Marvel Avengers.
Yeah. The Avengers, the TV show from earlier on.
Yeah.
She was in Joss Whedon's The Avengers.
And the script was rewritten to show her judo abilities. Unfortunately, it's only shown once, and it was right before the sexual assault.
Just that scene.
Yeah.
It just.
It is a very it's
because everything else about it is good.
Yeah, it tarnishes a otherwise really good film. I think.
And honestly, a really good bad guy, a good villain with an interesting idea. Again, we're not in the whole destroy the world, take over the world kind of thing. It's just.
He just wants to get rich.
I kind of like Goldfinger because he's kind of a putz. He's kind of just
he's just a dude. Yeah.
I'm cheating at cards, and then Bond gets in his way, and I'm like, this is not your arch villain, typical, evil man in the castle. He's wearing these weird board shorts and this shirt at the front. And you're like, this guy's kind of like a putz. Am I supposed to be scared of this dude?
in the book, he is supposed to be 5 foot. Short, stocky, bald man, right?
Yeah.
George Costanza level. And
can't stand ya.
But because Gert basically fit every other, kind of
bald,
portion, what they wanted, just the look and that, he's actually 6'1". So he's just way taller than what the character actually should be.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's a great villain, and
he is.
Yeah.
He's just not your. I like him because he's not your typical.
Yeah,
he's not sitting in the chair.
I just like the. Do you want me to talk? No, Mr. Bond. I want you to die.
Yeah,
and then I proceed to not kill you. But that's
and then Bond decides, well, I should talk, and that saves him.
Yeah,
but and that is one of the things when people talk about the quintessential Bond film, right?
Yeah,
that scene with the laser coming. that has been repeated in so many pieces of media.
Oh, everywhere.
The wiener laser scene, it's more tense than I remember it. Like,
so it gets real close.
So fun fact on that.
It was a real laser.
During the infamous laser scene, the special effects team positioned beneath the table using a blowtorch to really cut through the metal table. Went well beyond the point they said they'd stop at.
Oh, boy.
Sean Connery's visible distress is genuine, and he complained when shooting was over.
Wow.
Because they almost burned him.
Yeah. Like, in his no-no zone.
Yeah. So like that is absolutely that is absolutely genuine distress that he has when he's watching this.
It comes across like it's a tense scene.
I feel like that's the case in every movie where the director just doesn't tell, or like the actress is like, it's okay, I'm just scared of birds, and Hitchcock is like, perfect. Same kind of thing.
I got a film for you.
I'm gonna get a real reaction. Oh, we broke your arm that scene? Keep that. That's going in the reel.
Yeah.
You know?
But honestly, like that is a fantastically iconic scene for good reason.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the, I mean, like obviously like pop culture has taken over a lot of these moments from James Bond, especially Goldfinger particularly, because you have a great henchman in Odd Job.
Yeah.
And then you have a good bad guy. Honestly, the plot of him basically irradiating Fort Knox is actually pretty novel.
And then it makes his holdings just worth more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have, the Aston Martin, which is just fantastic.
Oh, it's a killer.
Like, the DB5 is just such a beautiful car.
Fantastic car.
Yeah.
And all the gadgets they included with it, like, and again, it's the same as like Russia with Love, where they explain how everything works so that later.
Oh, he's about to do
X, Y, Z. He's going to try this, and like watching him do the oil. I remember being a kid, being like, "What's next?"
God, you'd have to have so much oil on the road to like affect any kind of.
Especially it's like a dirt road.
Yeah. It would have to be like a tanker truck worth of oil.
But the ejector seat is always super satisfying.
I mean, it's a classic spy gadget, right? The classic Bond thing is the ejector seat.
Yeah. So kind of speaking on, I mentioned Odd Job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Harold Sakata is a American national who Hawaiian who is Japanese descent playing a Korean.
Yeah.
Right.
Classic, right?
A typical Bond thing. We've already thrown down
an Italian actress playing a Russian overdubbed by a British actress.
Right. Yeah.
So
that they actually got an Asian actor was probably progressive for Hollywood at the time.
It probably was. I mean, well, so I guess the whole like Goldfinger's whole shtick is that he has a lot of connections with Korean stuff to basically like help him, smelt his gold down and everything like that. And that's hypothetically where he got Odd Job.
All the workers were supposed to be Chinese. Because they mentioned China,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's just generally in the Asian sphere, apparently.
Because it's like the dude that's with him with the glasses, he's like a member of the Chinese party, because they also want the U.S.'s gold to be devalued.
Yeah, well, they just want turmoil in the West.
So Harold Sakata, who played Odd Job, was more of an athlete, Olympic weightlifter, and professional wrestler than actor.
The dude is built.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, he never says anything, right? It's great.
Yeah.
And he did not master the cinematic art of pulling back one's blows.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
When he injures James's neck in one scene in the hotel before he kills.
Chop.
Yeah. Connery was actually injured.
Oh, my gosh.
And his discomfort whenever he's doing the next scene, like walking to find the girl covered in gold.
Yeah.
Like, that is actual discomfort that he has. That,
just actually got belted right in the neck. Wow.
Then, and speaking on how... honestly, just like cool Harold is.
Yeah.
In his death scene when he's getting electrocuted and holding his hat, he's actually getting burned, like physically, like in real life getting burned, but decided to keep going until Guy Hamilton yelled cut.
Wow.
That's why Sean Connery actually looks concerned after, like when he's looking at Odd Job, because like as an actor, he's like, oh no.
Yeah.
And that actually made it into the final cut.
Of course it does.
Yeah, because it's a genuine reaction.
Yeah, wow.
That's intense.
Man, movie making in the 60s is terrifying.
This is why they have unions now.
So Harold Sakata is a true trooper.
He's the MVP. Not only is Odd Job one of the coolest characters in the Bond franchise, but like apparently this guy goes the extra mile for everything.
Yeah. So Ryan, I know we were talking with Steven a little bit. Kind of, he was a little bit of his center. What are your general thoughts?
I really like Goldfinger. I think it's I understand why it is most people's entryway into Bond if they were going to recommend it to a friend, if they're thinking about classic Bond.
Yeah.
Because it's the first one of the movies, Dr. No, Russia with Love to this one, where it feels like they've nailed the formula. They've got the gadgets, they've got a killer opening song, which also the score, the way they weave it in throughout, it's so good. Like
it's very well timed.
Yeah, it's unlike Russia with Love, which we know now because it was done in 4 months. But like it is really well timed, and then again you get kind of what would become a trope is that like the women in Bond's life come to like terrible ends a lot of the time. You get a cool henchman, you get a different bad guy.
Well, because there's a lot of Bond films that do not deal with Spectre.
Right.
Yeah.
Which you kind of get the expectation from the get-go with Bond. Oh, Spectre is the recurring villain.
It's going to be the monster of the week kind of bad guys are like, oh, we're going to send him this guy now to see if we can take care of that.
Yeah, and then they change it up with just, no, he has other missions.
Yeah, that don't involve specifically Spectre.
Yeah.
I have a random list of just like odd thoughts I'd like to run through.
Okay,
Go for it.
First off, where can I get a cool bird hat where I can infiltrate places by water?
I mean, the bird hat is pretty cool.
I love his disgust when he rips it off.
What a doofy way to like introduce you to the coolest spy ever. It's like, how are we going to introduce this cool spy? Is he in a tuxedo?
Make him look dumb.
I want him wearing the dumbest bird hat ever and then speed up the footage so like it just yakety sax could be playing under it. That's what I want.
But he is wearing a tuxedo just under his
He is. It's perfectly dry under this wetsuit. Like, wow.
Well, it's a dry suit, but
okay.
Yeah.
Also, where can I get Go-Gurt plastic explosives?
I mean, it's just plastic explosives.
Man, you were just going after it from the start.
I love those and I love it. Like, those plastic explosives out.
It's just a big tube of toothpaste.
It's like, how can we make this look not cool instead of it being like, here's a big chunk of C4. It's
let's make Sean Connery look as dumb as possible.
Let's see here. Machine Gun Granny rules.
That was great.
That lady just whips out a machine gun. I was like, incredible.
Well, because like initially you're like, oh, well, she's clearly being taken advantage of,
or she's just the innocent, unaware. She's baking like her pie.
Nah,
and she has to stop it. Open. No,
she
she's all in.
She's all in. The Odd Job fight is great.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I love that. I love the golf scene. The way he like rules lawyers.
The golf scene is
great. Fantastic.
I love that Odd Job, that fight scene in Fort Knox. Bond has no chance.
Oh yeah, no,
they make it clear.
Yeah, completely outmatched.
Yeah, you got to outthink this guy.
Yeah,
yeah. Other than that, I mean, I like it. Again, it's probably one of the better Bond movies, I would say.
Yeah,
across the board, and I get why so many people
kind of
hold it up as the quintessential or like the best entry level, because this is where they hit the formula and they figured out what makes a Bond movie like definitively.
Yeah.
It's just not one of my favorites ever. It's fine. It's a little slow. Some of the Bond movies have some similar issues where like the third act just drags out. And, like, there's a lot of scenes. Like when they're in this one, they're spraying the what gas. Is not nerve gas. They go. We're gonna show you 48 scenes of people passing out.
They paid a lot of money to fly those planes. They get their money.
Could have been 3 shots. They could have showed like 2 close-ups and a wide shot and moved on.
They want to really drive home. Hey, we just killed 60,000
They're like,
people.
we rented these planes and got 300 extras on board. You're going to see every scene.
And put them in military uniforms with guns.
Well, at least it does have a little bit of a story relevance, because once you find out the turn of like, oh, everyone was faking it, then you're like, oh, they have no chance of succeeding now.
Yeah, they're super prepared.
Of how many
but
U.S.
they can
military
still
was there.
detonate this bomb in the middle of Fort Knox. But then also like to know that Goldfinger was willing to kill that many people.
Oh yeah,
makes it all of a sudden he's not a putz. He's not this like.
Oh no, he's like, a total psychopath.
Yeah, like that for me is the moment where it's like, oh wait, he's not this like atypical evil bad guy. He's really evil.
He's just a bad guy.
Yeah.
And not to say that the film should have stretched further, but even just having Bond put up that plea to Pussy Galore, about the idea of, because everyone is given the impression that it just knocks people out. Well, no, he's actually just killing this many people, and that's her turn.
Yeah,
but you don't get any of that.
I think the argument that like Goldfinger is going to kill a lot of people is a much stronger turn than like, I did real good sex with you. Now change mind?
Yeah.
I took my pants off. Why you don't respond?
I don't understand. This normally works. What did you think, Andrew?
This is definitely one of those films where if it is like on TNT or you know, or if someone's like, oh, I want to watch an older Bond, this is definitely one of the ones I gravitate towards just because it's an easy watch. It has some really fun moments in it. The song's great.
Yeah.
And this was definitely the first older Bond that I was shown when I was younger.
It's the one that, like, when I think back, I don't know the exact order that I saw them in or anything like that, but when I think of a Connery Bond, a lot of the imagery from this one is what pops into my head.
Same.
Yeah. And, you know, it's definitely, I think it deserves a lot of the praise of being kind of like the prototype Bond film that kind of set the pace for everything else that kind of came after it, especially with the gadgets, the cars. Because up until this point, like with Dr. No and From Russia with Love, they were emphatically just very much spy films with a little bit of camp in there. Yeah. But this is where they were like, ooh, this is our niche right here.
The gadgets sell well. Let's do the gadgets.
Yeah, gadgets sell well, cars sell well, girls sell well.
They already knew that last part.
And but this one was definitely, they're like, oh, we have to have a ridiculous name. You know, the only thing I actually don't like about it is basically kind of the false ending to where, you know, he wakes up in the plane or he's on the plane and then Goldfinger kind of walks out. Like, I wish that it would have been a better payoff for it. But I mean, you do get the payoff because like you already had the scene of like, oh, well, that's a gun, you know, that's just going to blow a hole in the side of the plane
and then sucked out of that window.
Just stuffed through the tiniest window.
Well, you know that he's alive the entire time that he's falling down too.
Sure.
So like, you know, okay, I maybe thinking about it is a little bit better. But even then, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like the whole, you know, and this is another trope that just kind of exists in every single Bond after this is like, you know, he's ending the film of like, oh, I'm getting the girl again.
Yeah, we're gonna cover up with the parachute. Yeah. They're looking for us. They won't find us yet. Yeah, every film does that.
Yeah, and that does bother me. But yeah, I mean, like it's a good film.
Yeah,
and I definitely would absolutely prefer this one over From Russia with Love almost any day.
I think for rewatchability, for sure. Yeah,
I will say I have probably seen, starting with the scene where he is talking to the mob members. From there on, I half a dozen times easy, just from it being on. You flipping through and it's just on TV. You're like, well, I missed the start. I guess this is where I am. You know.
Yeah. So how do you feel about these two movies representing Connery as Bond?
As the best of Connery.
Yeah. I think Goldfinger should be on the list. I think Diamonds Are Forever should also be on the list.
Okay.
Mostly because Diamonds Are Forever has a lot of really fun elements in it. I like the two henchmen that are kind of like the psychopath straight men.
Yeah.
And then you have Plenty O'Toole, which is a stupid name, but I like her. I like her character.
Her character's cool. Yeah.
Her character's good. You get some fun stuff with like Las Vegas and everything.
Yeah.
And I think I just like that film a little bit better than From Russia with Love.
I agree, but I would still say that if you watched From Russia with Love and Goldfinger, you have a pretty good grasp of what Connery is like.
You know what Bond is.
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't do You Only Live Twice. There's yellow face in there, and it's just not very good.
I got to shout out Thunderball. I love Thunderball. I think that's my favorite Connery Bond. But like, I could see where that's not the entry point for somebody. That's not what you would start with.
Is Thunderball the one where they're out on like the
underwater with the boat,
out at sea,
and the plane?
There's a lot of out at sea.
So basically, there's an experimental jet that they apprehend,
they steal or whatever.
The finale outside of the water, for underwater or whatever, after like the big SAS and Spectre fight. The outside of the water on the boat is brutal for the footage because they speed it up.
They just speed everything up like 1,000%.
But the song for Thunderball is great.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big fan of the rest of the film. I don't know. It's fine.
I like it a lot, but that's my personal preference.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think specifically with these two, I think Russia with Love and Goldfinger is a good representation of Connery.
Yeah.
I think you get to see the zany side and the more serious side.
Yeah. Well, and I definitely don't think that From Russia with Love is a bad film. It's just not one that I would like show someone as a first Bond film.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of where I lay.
Yeah.
Steven?
Dude.
I mean, you've already heard this. I like From Russia with Love,
sure,
just because it is kind of the classic spy.
Yeah,
it definitely sides on the serious, dramatic versus kind of the wacky, zany. I think From Russia with Love ages better.
It does.
Than
it doesn't have, you know, a lot of sexual assault in it.
Yeah.
There's also that scene at Goldfinger where Dink is her name, and he's like, smack, man talk. And he's
oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That scene that's like, what?
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
It's pretty bad.
Like,
yeah.
Wow.
So from that angle, definitely, I think Goldfinger doesn't age as well.
Nope.
Yeah.
You know, the story I don't think holds up as well either. But again, that's not atypical of Bond films.
Yeah,
sure.
So if you were like, hey, I want you to condense Bond into, you know, a condensed version of what is it going to be like, and then just inject it in my veins. Well, Goldfinger is basically the answer because you get all the good and all the bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a pretty good, like, here. Yeah. Watch this, and then you're ready for anything else.
For anything else,
nothing in Bond is going to surprise you after this.
Yeah, because like if you then go and watch like Spy Who Loved Me, which has also a lot of camp and a lot of gadgets and everything, you're like, oh, this is actually pretty on par from what
you're already primed.
Yeah, you're set. Yeah.
So I would almost say if you've never seen a Bond movie, and this is like, I would almost say watch Goldfinger first,
and then
Russia with Love or anything else, because Goldfinger almost prepares you for
everything.
Anything.
Yeah, anything is going to be different or expected.
Sure.
Yeah.
After that, so
yeah. So kind of, you know, speaking on Bond and everything, you know, I know this was a different formatted episode. This is going to be kind of how it goes for the 007 double headers going forward. We're going to be doing one for every single James Bond actor, at least one film. Sorry, Timothy Dalton, you only get one. Just because George Lazenby only got one. But, you know, we're going to be doing those over the next couple months.
Yep.
And on top of that, we have, for only $1, you can, get access to all of our other bonus content, but we have Bond-specific bonus episodes that are, you know, going to be produced, and one's already available right now that you can go listen to me and Ryan basically at each other's throats about some very specific 1970s.
I mean, just say it. Things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. While I sit in the corner going, fight, fight, fight. I can totally sell this. Fight, fight, fight.
Yeah. And also, I mean, like, to build on that, the reason we're doing the main episodes where we review 2 of each is we're culminating in a Patreon exclusive episode coming up where we're going to rank James Bonds. So if you join us through this whole journey, you will have heard us argue about James Bond quite a bit.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you cannot spare $1 a month, we totally understand. We would love it if you could help us out in other ways, telling your friends, sharing posts, liking, leave a review. You know, we love it on Apple
give
iTunes.
Us feedback.
Yeah.
You know,
but a 5-star review goes a long way in any podcast service, but specifically iTunes, of getting podcasts discovered by more people. So if you can't spare $1, just give us a 5-star review, specifically on iTunes. Anywhere is cool. Spotify's great. But
iTunes is the best.
If you use iTunes and have an iPhone, please give us that 5-star review.
We also, you know, have a website, explodesintendedpodcast.com. That has, you know, links to Patreon, our Discord, where we are consistently active, and we try and add more stuff every week. We try and open up discussions, especially on things that we may or may not review, but we still want to talk about. And, you know, it's definitely one of those things where we'd love to, one, hear from you and just join in the discussion. And, you know, it's always a lot of fun.
You can also find links to, like, social media on there, our Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's all the time we have this week. And until next week, I'm Andrew.
I'm Steven.
And I'm Ryan.
And every spoiler was intended.